Okay, today we will discuss why supply chain resilience holds the key to recovery, as well as the role of technology in supply chain management. Global supply chains, a term that was considered niche and specific to an industry, is now ubiquitous. Over the past year, as the pandemic touched every corner of the world, everyone started to understand the importance of seamless, connected, quick, and transparent supply chains. Hundreds of thousands of containers are on the move as we speak from around the world with essential medical supplies, food produce, relief material, and many other goods to be delivered right at your doorstep. Dubai-based logistics leader and global trade enabler DP World is playing a major role in advancing global commerce with its 150 operations around the world and a massive team of over 50,000 people. In 2020, DP World delivered a capacity of more than 100 million TEUs or 20-foot equivalent units. This mammoth 24/7 supply operation is at the heart of helping local and global economies stay resilient. But what enables this complex and global operation? What are some of the digital technologies behind this operation? And and their role in ensuring a truly connected supply chain. To help us understand the impact of these technologies, we have with us Mike Bhaskaran, the Chief Operating Officer at DP World, and joining him is Rahul Misra, Vice President, Business Applications for the Lower Gulf region at Oracle. Welcome, you two. Mike, maybe you can start by sharing with the audience a little bit more information about yourself, what you do, and maybe some more information about who DP World is.
Thanks, Bernard. DP World is a leading provider of smart end-to-end supply chain logistics solutions, and we are enabler of a global trade, flow of trade across the globe. A comprehensive range of products and services, covers every link of integrated supply chain, from maritime to inland terminals to marine services and industrial parks, as well as technology-driven customer solutions. We deliver these services through interconnected network of 128 business units in 60 countries, with a workforce, as you mentioned, over 53,000 employees, with significant presence in both like high growth, mature markets and emerging markets and so forth. As CEO of DP World, logistics and technology business, I'm focusing on driving our transformation efforts. We are disrupting the world of trade by creating like smarter, more efficient and innovative solutions powered by digital platforms. I lead a variety of portfolio covering physical assets, space businesses, including maritime logistics, ferries, as well as new digital businesses such as our Sea Rates platform, and then several other technology tools.
Very good, thank you. And you're both joining us from Dubai, where the weather is much better. We've just had a flurry of snow outside my house, so it's no snow inside where you are, right?
That is absolutely true. It's warm and sunny out.
Yeah. Rahul, same for you. Can you let us know what you do and maybe a bit more information about Oracle?
Well, thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Mike. So I lead Oracle's cloud applications business in the Lower Gulf region. I've been based in Dubai for over 17 years. It's been an amazing journey so far. A bit on Oracle. We, as would know that one of the largest software technology and cloud computing organizations out there. Our mission has been to help our customers understand the data and discover the insights, and as you know, that it provides, unlock the endless possibilities it brings in, and help them keep moving forward by adopting these new emerging technologies across their business enterprise. So we've been working very closely with a lot of customers across the region, having been here for over 30 years. A lot of partnerships have come together, and DP World is one such that we enjoy, working with. So it's very strategic and a great partnership that both organizations, really embrace, and we're working forward to.
Very good. I'm just having a quick look through the stream. It's nice for so many of you to say hello. We've got people joining us from the region, from Bahrain, from UAE, um, from Saudi, but also from Algeria. Lots of people from India, from Scotland, from Spain, Bangladesh, Nigeria. So it's really good to see you all on the stream. We've got people from London, from the Philippines, and so on. So keep this all going and share with us where you're from. And also, if you have any specific questions or comments, please engage, because this is hopefully an interactive session. So we're here to discuss the role of supply chains in driving the global economic recovery. And you will agree that the first step to achieving this goal is to vaccinate enough people around the world. There's no doubt that the movement of COVID vaccines is by far the toughest logistical challenge the world has ever faced. And we recently learned that DP World has joined hands with UNICEF to support the vaccination drive. DP World's vision is redefining the future of global trade. And in my view, the collaboration on vaccination transportation is an important step towards achieving this vision. So, Mike, how did DP World reach its position as a global logistics powerhouse that is now playing an important role in the global vaccination effort? And what are some of those technologies that are helping you to power your journey?
On the thank you, Bernard. On the vaccine specifically and our partnership with UNICEF, DP World will provide UNICEF with logistic solutions and supply chain expertise by using DP World's warehouse facilities in Dubai. UNICEF will have an optimized access to many countries. In addition, DP World is also committed to leveraging our global logistics infrastructure and services on a pro bono basis in support of the COVID-19 vaccine logistics needs, including transport, storage requirements in countries where DP World is present. So that's really like very, very important. This is less of a technology effort, as I would say. I mean, we of course we have to track and trace and make sure it actually gets there at the right time. There is no doubt about it. But it's more of ensuring our breadth of resources can support this critical effort. It's such a humanitarian effort. To this end, we've also joined the Vaccine Alliance, as we call it, along with Emirates Sky Cargo, Dubai Airports, and International Humanitarian City. And with this alliance, we will provide a combined expertise along with global air routes, seaports, logistics networks to speed up the vaccine deployment, especially to all the developing countries and then in need countries.
Very good. Let's go into a bit more detail then, Mike. How and when did DP World's digital transformation journey commence, and what were the initial objectives? How has the journey progressed? How did DP World who did you partner with in your journey? And what were some of the key milestones that you feel you've achieved across along your journey?
So I think we are transforming into a global digital infrastructure-led supply chain solutions provider to help build a broader global trade and develop economies. I think we had a choice at that time, make versus buy. We said like, what are some of the core essentials that we have to make, and what are some of the activities such as like common platforms like ERP, which we chose Oracle as a partner. And then to that end, in terms of Oracle Fusion became a very critical platform for us to go ahead and deploy across the globe, because for an organization like ours with so many countries, so many languages, we needed a partner right now who's got the capability and the breadth to go back and deploy this all over the world. So that was kind of very important for us. In addition to that, we have our own port community system and then port logistics solutions and stuff, which are very unique to us and how we manage. So that we had to go back and start developing and then creating new solutions as to how is it easy and then how does it really help our customers, major liners as well as the freight forwarders as well as NVOCCs. That became a very clear aspect for us to make sure that we are providing good visibility to them. And then to that end, we also like developed some new solutions. We recently acquired a company, crates.com, to provide like end-to-end digital freight forwarding solution. And then which is an aggregator of best possible freight rates, which shows to, and then this, and also we've also launched something called Digital Freight Alliance, which is an independent association of freight forwarders in more than 150 plus countries. So through this alliance, as well as the CRH platform, we are able to provide like good opportunities and lead generation for freight forwarders and VOCCs, and then also the major liners who are our primary customers, and making sure our port-centric logistics strategy is working really well, right? This mission was just like was, of course, working. Of course, we had to evolve, like all other organizations. This became a very pivotal aspect for us to go ahead and then build. So the way I would answer your question, Bernard, is just like there are certain technologies that we wanted to make and certain technologies we wanted to buy. And then in the technologies that we wanted to buy, it's obviously Oracle and Microsoft, some of the key components became a very, very critical partner for us, and especially Oracle.
Very good. So Rahul, Mike mentioned that Oracle played a major role in this, and you provided applications that help them to automate DP World's core business processes, things like supply chain, finance, HR. So an implementation of this scale is quite unique, I guess. So how did Oracle approach this big project, and what were some of the core capabilities of Oracle Cloud applications that proved to be vital in this big project?
So thank you, Bernard. Just going back to what Mike said, the Oracle DP World partnership is about a decade old. It's not yesterday, and we've been working with them across UAE and many other geographies. In early 2018, we saw the leadership reimagine themselves. How could DP World play a leading role, in global trade, and how do we make sure that they can, make it faster, safer, more profitable for our stakeholders in the new evolving world. So this is something that they've been working on, and as part of that, we started collaborating very closely with the leadership, and in trying to understand this much better. Two key priorities that came out was that both organizations clearly understood the role of digital technology and how it would actually help them, get to the leadership role that they wanted to play. And one was, of course, how do we leverage it to transform our business processes, and the other was and unlock the business opportunities that will, come through it. And the other was to how do we provide that exceptional, customer experience that was extremely important for them to get to the role that they want to play and lead. So yeah, and to do that, it was very important for them to modernize, the back office operations, which were very critical for them, because when you want to really serve your customer, then you've got to look at operational excellence in the areas that you need to do. And to do that, and Mike and yourself talked about, here is a 50,000 plus employee organization spread globally, running over 120 plus, logistic businesses, with huge, 90 plus terminals and ports touching every aspects of the global trade. So how do you do that? And to make sure that your technology, your processes cut across all the entire enterprise of finance and supply chain and procurement and HR to do that. So yes, this was a very, very important imperative for them, and we worked very closely to put those plans in place once the technology was decided that this is how we were going to go elevate the partnership. And the process, yes, the tools that Oracle brought to the table is built on Oracle Cloud applications are actually born, in the cloud era. So we pretty much, written the applications fresh, leveraging the latest technology out there, which is very important. It runs on what you would call the latest technology cloud platform, the infrastructure that allows you to be agile and scalable. This is one of the things that they wanted to do. This would, in the timelines that it had to be achieved. Then how do you continue in a very, demanding and a changing, evolving world? Is how do you keep, making sure that those requirements of your customer, and in this case, DP World, which was really moving very fast, trying to outpace change, go. So the pace of innovation is very important. How do you deliver it? How do you absorb it? How do you take the feedbacks and turn it around? So these were very critical elements. And of course, when you're trying to bring this big change, you want to make sure that the user experience, with a modern user experience, the interface, and how do you personalize some of the things that we did with them to help them make sure that the adoption to adapt to the new world is easier. Yeah.
Very good. So, Mike, DP World's digital transformation with Oracle started before COVID-19 set in. So, how critical did this implementation prove to be as the pandemic accelerated? And did you have to scale the digital implementation to meet demand? And also, how did DP World's massive workforce respond to the sudden change?
I think, very good question, Bernard. I think we, just like everybody else, the pandemic really meant to rapidly look at new ways of working, just like the teams with several remote working tools like Zoom, what have you. And most importantly, then how do we deploy it remote solutions? And this is where Oracle was really, very, very helpful. First of all, the global breadth of Oracle was extremely helpful for us in terms of wherever in different geographies right now you could find support and capabilities to go back and then deploy all of the components of the Fusion product. In addition to that, it's just like it was also easy for us to go back and do a lot of remote training across the board with the Oracle University, the tools that we use to go back and then train our associates. So obviously, it just created a lot of like rapid momentum for us to go ahead and then share data on a common platform for either procurement or finance or HR. It became more imperative with the pandemic that we have like a rapid access to data across multiple geographies. So from that perspective, I think the organization responded well. I mean, we were able to go ahead and think Rahul's point of our execution timeline and stuff like that was the partnership actually allowed us to go back and put the right resources in place from the very beginning. And the platform, the fact that we could do like remote deployments, and then that also allowed us to go back and then get benefit across the board in multiple geographies. So it was like a good win-win for us.
Very good. So, Raul, how did Oracle respond to this rapid deployment requirement then from DP World? Were implementation timelines were they brought forward, and does cloud technology make it possible for large scale implementations such as this one to be accelerated?
Thank you, Bernard. So, you know, you touched upon a point that DP World did commence on this journey prior COVID-19, and which is so when the pandemic came in, you were witnessing a change that had to be very quickly understood, and you still had to keep the lights on. So here was DP World that had to continue running their business. Cargo was still on, and the fleet movement and the logistics had to continue. Well, even though the passenger ferry trade was going down, and at the same time they were on a journey. You're talking about 160 plus on-prem systems globally that had to be rewired. The back office had to be restaged, and you had to keep moving forward. So I got to give it to the DP World leadership, and there was the fact that they didn't step back because the journey was starting to show some amazing, unprecedented, I would say, upsides, positive upsides to what the uptake that was already in place with the deployments that was out there. They did not stop. They recommitted it, reinforced themselves to the journey despite the COVID-19 coming in. It's because they saw the value, and therefore they themselves, kind of accelerated the pace of the adoption and adaptation that had to happen. So over a period of, we saw working with themselves over the period of all 3 to 4 months, they had completely moved on from and switched on to work from home, whether it was the technology team that Mike leads or the other the employees that were working on the business areas to work and go forward. How do you do this? When you're living in the old world, legacy environments, given the business that they're in, you think of it, it's a very analog world. What does that really mean? There's a lot of paper that travels from the time your shipment, your goods move from the factories to the end consumer, irrespective whether going from the factory to the port to the ships to the custom and many more. In some cases, a lot of physical movement happens by going down to the offices. DP World is leading that change. It's saying, I want to be the first to create those efficiencies by adoption of technology and really going truly digital in the way I lead that business internally and how it's surrounding themselves. And you've seen Mike talk about it. So embracing the new platform allowed them to do a lot of things. Here you are talking about an invoice that can be scanned, a document that can be scanned and easily read and goes into the system. So it cuts down the processing times. When you look at finance, monthly close dropping from 15 days to 3 days. These are some of the benefits, that accrued to them that allowed them to continue that pace. Budgeting cycles have come down by 50%. Your invoice processing has really gone up. So, and then at the end of the day, you're starting to realize a very connected supply chain, which is really was something that was amiss, which was pretty much, disjointed or fragmented in the previous world. So these things have really pushed forward the whole engagement that and actually helps them continue to move to their mission, to their objectives. And we continue to help them in that process.
Very good. So, Mike, while speed and agility are certainly key for a global trade organization, supply chain provenance is also an important aspect to inspire trust among customers. So, how important is this in your view? And is digital technology playing a role here too?
Absolutely. In terms of provenance, just highlighting where the product is, where the fidelity of the product, because today we do a lot of financial transactions based on where, once a product is actually picked up from a warehouse, there's a line hauler who has to get paid. As soon as he drops off at the port, the sequence of events actually starts. So the provenance as it relates to the governance aspect of it and the timeliness and fidelity of the data becomes very, very critical. So there are several platforms. I mean, we have a product called Cargo Flow, which is, one of the things that I really liked about the Oracle platform was we are part of the ecosystem right now. So we can actually take it, and then anybody in our ecosystem who's using Oracle obviously has got the ability to go back and use Cargo Flows to go back and then see how they can actually see their container, where's their container at any given instance, so or the shipment in any given instance. So that became, whether it's like a rail, road, barge, or so many of these, multimodal solutions that we offer, sea air combinations and so forth, that became a very, very critical aspect of it. And then, especially with the partnership between us and the technology platforms that we did, and some where, it's not very standard, it's very unique to DP World, we are able to consolidate and build it. So that flexibility was available with Oracle as a part of their app ecosystem. So that was very positive for us. And that's extremely important, as you mentioned.
Good. So, besides supporting the core business of DP World, do you see cloud technology helping the organization in driving inorganic growth via acquisitions and so on as well?
I think it, of course, I mean, I just give you a generic answer. It's just like cloud technologies. Of course, it's going to be the future, and then it allows us the seamless integration with like any kind of like acquisitions we would bring on board. So I think this is definitely going to be a good opportunity for us, as opposed to solving for on-prem and then going and deploying stuff right now. So it's easy for us to go back and open up and then start launching. So as soon as a new business comes on board, or even organic growth, it allows the flexibility for us to go ahead and then just like scale very, very quickly, as you mentioned before. I completely agree with that. So it's
Very good, Mike. So, what, in your view, is the future then of global trade, and what will be the role of DP World in that future from your point of view?
I think the future of global trade, obviously, it's evolving. I think it will continue to grow as new markets and new businesses are created. Our job is to go back and connect multiple networks from point A to point B, using the fastest, quickest, best service option available to the customer, and making sure we provide the right track and trace capability. So there's an ease of access. So at fingertips, you should be able to go back, and then if you want to ship, whether it's like a mango farmer or like an onion farmer from like, say, like avocado farmer from Rwanda wants to go back and ship something to Dubai, at a click of a button, they should be able to go ahead and do that, and then book the shipments, and then figure out how to go back and bring it, from a point A to point B. Seamless financial transactions taking place, so it's really the future of supply chain. And then creating alternative routes, because we're developing new solutions from sea air, so it's just like, or the multimodal solutions always existed. That's not the point. The point is like creating alternative routes and creating new hubs. We have a new product called World Logistics Passport, which we've created a series of countries and then companies as a public, private, solution right now that we are providing, way to accelerate the flow of merchandise through multiple countries, ports, locations, and so forth. So these are all several tools. I mean, end of the day, as we mentioned, Bernard, we really like look ourselves as a global trade enabler. So we have like, especially our portfolio of customers, the major liners, so it's like all the NVOCCs, and then all of the freight forwarders that we have. We want to make sure that we have given them exceptional service in terms of either visibility of the data, alternative routing, or like access to like rapid new routes.
Very good. So Rahul, what's your view on the future of global trade and maybe the role of technology in enabling organizations to create these not just resilient supply chains, but resilient businesses across the globe?
So here's my 2 cents, and Mike pretty much covered it. Uh, the fact is that disruptions, uncertainties have always been around in the global economy. It's not something new. The COVID-19 kind of reinforced it. And one of the biggest takeaways that we've seen is that supply chains and logistics were it pushed it to a breaking point. They've been pushed up. The boundaries have been stretched out here. And I noticeably, the businesses that either have survived or prospered are the ones who had a very agile and well-developed network in play. So the learnings are a few out there, and that's it. That you got to invest in your supply chain and logistic network, which basically means creates visibility, create agility, so that you can see what's happening across the entire supply chain. Mike talked about scenario, alternate routing and many others. This is all about, creating the ability to model scenarios about your network, the supply chain and network. So it's very important that you have the ability to do so. So you leverage technology to do so, so you can see what's happening around you, if and when, even in certain times or uncertain times. So you got to be prepared for it. Then if you truly want to actually, the whole concept of automating and digitalization of your supply chain, right from the time of order to fulfillment, which means you got to really understand the actions and the processes and how do they all come together in the real internet, in a connected world. It's very, very important. Fourth point that I would like to talk about, and which Mike said, when they say we want to become an enabler, a global trade enabler, it basically means I want to be able to create a very, very effective collaborative network. When our supply chain and our logistic providers and partners globally really collaborate, then you can continue to really deliver, and meet the challenges in uncertain times, in good times, so on and so forth. But why are we doing all of this? It's all about the customer. The customer continues to be at the heart of the service that needs to be rendered, and the things like track and trace and many things. So our ability to really create a network to be responsive to the customer, would be sometimes give the example of the Amazon world, the ability to predict and when and what is going to happen is very, very important. So I think those are the areas that we need to focus on, that will continue to support the growing and the global trade, as well as the uncertainties that come around. That's how we'll be able to manage them better.
Very good. And just hearing from this amazingly successful implementation, then I'd like to come to both of you maybe with some tips. So if any other company would be embarking on their digital transformation journey, their move to the cloud and so on, do you have any tips that, or any pitfalls that they should avoid? That would be really useful. And then the second question I'd like to discuss with all of you, once we've talked about the pitfalls, is some of the future technology trends that excite you, that you see on the horizon, that you feel will make your organizations or your customers even more successful. So starting with the tips then, Mike, you've been through this digital transformation journey. What are some of your top tips for anyone embarking on a similar journey?
I think, I just make sure that you have make sure we have a strong team delivering it. identify the right partner, and develop an internal team that's got this strong background in Oracle Fusion in terms of different modules, chart of accounts, some of the basics right now that's so important in terms of mapping out the physical processes. So that foundation is extremely important to making sure that there's strong expertise, functional and technical expertise in each of these areas of like HR, finance, and then procurement or what have you, or different modules that should be considered. So that's extremely important to have a strong baseline. And then understanding your physical processes is like extremely important. So it's like nothing in terms of understanding the physical flow, the financial flow and data flow, mapping out the processes, and then leverage Oracle as a tool and how does it really support your business process. So that amount of time to go back and invest in understanding the physical process of like the organizations where you're representing is extremely important. So and then you can really capitalize the best value that's actually coming from Oracle. Of course, they have like monumental amount of resources right now from an Oracle standpoint, but I think understanding like what is the business objective, the goal, the business processes, that becomes a very pivotal element for us to be successful. Of course, they have, like everything else, it is the people, and then the quality of the people, and then how they come in, and then a collaborative team is going to be extremely important as you go through this transformation journey.
I mean, this is something I'm seeing in every implementation that I am involved with, or that I'm seeing, that actually technology is something that you can sort. Is the people element, the leadership, the culture, all of those aspects that need to fall in place to make it really successful. Raul, you see many different customers, not just DP World, but many others. What if you look at these large scale implementations and these transformative projects? What are some of your top tips?
Well, I'm going to take some of what Mike said, and perhaps you touched upon it. It's very important to understand why you're doing what you want to do. Sometimes that objectives don't come out clearly, and then how are you going to go doing about it? It's very, very important, irrespective of the tool or the technology that you want to leverage. And in the culture of the organization is extremely important. One, in the people that you work with, so you got to create an environment which brings in a lot of openness, trust, and so that when two parties or irrespective of the parties that are out there, the product vendor, the customer, the implementer, or however they come together, you have to understand that there is one common goal. The objectives are common out here, and how do we get there? In that these journeys are not easy because you're actually creating a huge change in the organization, and these changes are not limited to the technology piece. You're actually in some form or either also touching on the behavioral aspect of your employees, of your people, and the ecosystem that you work, because you will touch your customers, you will touch your suppliers in one form or the other. So you're embarking on a very, very important journey, and these must be clearly understood, because that's where sometimes the key to our success lies. And that's where I would, plan well, think well, plan well, execute well, and get onto it.
Very good. All very valid tips. Mike, in terms of what technological evolutions you are seeing on the horizon, um, what do you find particularly exciting, or what are some of the things that you're planning to look into for DP World, maybe in the future, to accelerate your digital transformation even further and make this even more exciting?
I think, it's just like in terms of like standardization of documentation that you see, like bill of lading, customs paperwork, and how the seamless transportation of like, from physical to like a lot of digital, and the ability to whether use blockchain or some other alternative technology, that's very, very critical. I see that it's pretty exciting, seamless transactions. I see huge opportunities in terms of like trade finance, and then liquidity coming into the markets right now. That's really requires that capability right now to go back and uplift trade. So I see that as a huge opportunity. Again, from a technology perspective, there is huge applications of like artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning. There's so many problems right now that we're looking at, whether it's like container stacking at the port, or like alternative routing techniques that we need to go ahead and then use, or what geographies, because there's so many ways to get into today. with the land, air, sea combination and multimodal, and the time criticality of this and how it's actually moved is just huge opportunities right now that I see. So with the new trade routes that's actually coming up, and then and again, with the lot more perishable supply chain, I also see a lot of opportunities there in terms of like faster and faster getting to the market right now from farm to the table. So I see like many opportunities of like as new trades and new markets are being developed. I think there is going to be a huge opportunity for us to leverage a lot of technology to go make some of these business decisions.
Yeah, very good. This I guess starts to answer one of the questions that I picked up in the stream from Tapa saying, how do you apply policies across borders, and how do you adhere to the same processes from source to target destination? And I guess blockchain is one of the processes. Having aligned all the documentation, this is another step towards this direction. But how big a problem is this at the moment, Mike?
It is a problem where customers are actually have to wait for physical documentation to go back and release containers or what have you from different parts of the stuff. Um, I think some companies do it really, really well, and some, I mean, it's just like are still. So this is like industry itself. It's like there is a parallels over here you can really look at. But from a standpoint of DP World, our objective is to go back and then bring parity and then help like a lot of the SMEs to come in, and then when they're connecting with, when you have a large buyer and then you have a series of suppliers from multiple countries, and then it's like end of the day, the supplier's technology impacts the buyer's capability as well. So it's like, so for us, that's extremely important to go back and bridge the gap and then provide that solution and then be a good fit there. So.
Very good. So same question for you, Rahul. What technology are you excited about? What do you see on the horizon that can make can make an impact, not just in the supply chain, but across industries?
So one of the things that we're seeing more and more is about the touchless operations, or what you call the invisible operations coming in, creating more and more automation, uh, a more connected world with less and less of human intervention. So, uh, and that's where Oracle's also really investing in, whether it's our autonomous database that comes about saying it leverages artificial intelligence to learn and understand how to manage that better, and then go all ramp it up. And that impacts the application layer, which again engages with the business world and helps consumers, customers, irrespective whether you're in the B2B space or in the B2C space. A lot of that will come across with machine learning, blockchain that's been talked about now, and so on and so forth. So we see these emerging technologies playing a big. Then the whole concept of being anytime, connected, ability to work anytime, anywhere in a very secure manner is so data security is going to play a big role. So the work that's being done around there is going to, impact all of us. So that's another area of a lot of investment and our work going around, which is very important for us and the business entities at large.
Very good. I'm just looking at one of the questions. You both mentioned blockchain in your answers about the technology trends that you're potentially excited about. And the question here is, what's the future of blockchain technology? I guess supply chain is one of those application areas where there's a lot of hope for blockchain. Do you have any response to this, Rahul? Do you want to kick this off, and then maybe
Well,
Mike?
yeah, so it's an evolving technology with a lot of use cases across industries. You see, whether it's in the banking sector or whether it's as simple as, record management, whether it's, looking at the real estate registrations, sale, every aspect of our lives, there is an opportunity out there. It's an evolving, uh, I would say, in concept. Technology is still evolving around it. There's a lot of work, good work that's already in play, with respect to whether it's Oracle or multiple players out there. So as the use case become more and more prevalent and more relevant in our business lives, in our consumer lives, I think the technology will take off more and more. Yeah.
Very good, Mike. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think I mean, everybody's aware of cryptocurrency, so I'm not going to go in terms of, because it's a generic question about like future of blockchain. I think you're going to always see that technology being leveraged over there. But for us in supply chain, as I mentioned to you about like documentation automation is a huge aspect for us. And if you start like, putting your contracts together that, as soon as you just bring the container to the port, like the load port, I want to pay, the supplier about 20% of the value of the merchandise. As you start bringing like interesting smart contracts into the process, then you need a system right now is extremely high fidelity right now that everybody has got like this checks and balances are built into the multiple chain right now. So I think that's a really good application for us because we have like packing slips, there is customs documentation right now, consolidated commercial invoice. So all of these bill of lading, multiple bill of ladings, house master bill of lading, depending on how you cut it. So that becomes a very critical aspect for us to automate it because you're taking that document to make like some other business decision, whether it is like a letter of credit or something. So the whole ecosystem actually benefits in terms of like financial disbursement becomes a critical aspect of this. So we see like a good use case there. And then we want to make sure that it's like scales and then it's ease of use and so forth. So I see like potential in that particular market, in that particular segment of the business.
Very good. So Brakwat was asking what's the next technology here, and then there was a related question from Sarah, who's asked a few questions today. Do you see Hyperloop as being a viable option for transportation in the future? So maybe we can finish a little discussion looking ahead. When we look across supply chain about transportation, we hear about autonomous trucks, self-floating ships, hyperloops, and any technologies across the whole transportation, mobility, supply chain sector that you think will potentially make a big impact and that you're excited about?
I'm excited about Hyperloop for sure. I had the opportunity to go back and see the test in Nevada. It was like fascinating, and then you could see the whole. So I think the opportunity for it's just like so. In terms of like looking at a vacuum situation where you're actually running this in magnetic levitation right now and looking at cargo right now, we see the applications are there. It is people have been using maglev for quite some time right now. So I see this as a huge opportunity in the future, solving some mobility solutions, especially as it relates to cargo. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. And it's great to think about this as cargo as well, because the applications could potentially be even more important than transporting people, which is always the first thing we think about when we talk about Hyperloops. Rahul, any technology, any views on Hyperloop or any of the other more futuristic technologies and mobility applications and concepts that are on the horizon?
No, not really. I think we've touched upon most the evolving technologies, and I defer the Hyperloop to Mike because DP World is very actively engaged on that one. So hopefully we will learn more with them as we move forward.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time today, Mike and Rahul. This has been fascinating. I think no one can deny that supply chain resilience is such an important topic, that we need global supply chains. And I guess what we've learned is that there is a lot of technology there that can help enable this. And there's still lots of scope to make supply chains better, more secure, more transparent, and everything else using technology. So thank you so much for your time. Anyone listening to this who wants to re-listen to this conversation, you can head to my YouTube channel where you can find all my previous conversations with some fascinating organizations and people from across the world. And you can listen to this on my podcast as well. So on my podcast, I have all my conversations available and you will be able to listen to them in your own time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Rahul. And I will hopefully see you shortly.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
Much.
Bye.